Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and welcome to part 3 of our mock hospital build. Okay, so welcome to part 3 of this hospital build. As I say, last time we went from the plan of a 4-storey building to a 6-storey building. So in this episode we'll be doing that final 2 floors and placing the whole lot in Brick Nottingham, which I'm really looking forward to. But before we get started on some of the amendments from last time, or even the new build, I just want to go back to last time when we looked at the new blue train, and there was a bit of a competition to name this new engine, and there were quite a few good suggestions. The most obvious that I totally missed right from the beginning was calling this Beauty, because the other engine that I've got, the red one, is called the Beast. So Beauty and the Beast makes a lot of sense, and loads of people spotted that. I didn't, but loads of people did, and loads of people also suggested Belle as the name of Beauty and the Beast as well, for the same sort of reasons. And I did quite like both of those names, but I gave the decision on what this should be called to Mrs. Hood, so I thought I would give her all of the options and let her decide. So she didn't really like Beauty. She didn't really like Belle either. Blue Belle and Blue Beauty I also quite liked, but again, they didn't pass the test. And then Mrs. Hood finally quite liked Big Blue, which is a really interesting name. It's quite fun as well, and it's obvious reasons why it would fit. But in the end, that was beaten as well. So we ended up with a completely non-feminine sounding name, which is what I was originally going for, but one that was suggested by only one person, one subscriber, and was based on my modification at the front here. I'd said it looked a bit like a hammerhead at the front, and hammerhead sharks were blue, well, sand blue if you look at the new ones that have been released as part of the Ocean Explorer line. So when I suggested that name to Mrs. Hood, she immediately jumped at it. Hammerhead. So that's the now masculine sounding name for this engine. So we'll have the Beast and the Hammerhead. But I do quite like the name. It's very sort of forceful and sort of solid sounding. So there we go. Here is the Hammerhead. And just a minor thing on this while we're here. It was actually hitting some of my arrivals and departures boards in my main station, with these parts clipping it. So what I've done is actually removed just the 2x8 black plates behind these on each side, so these are directly connected to the blue piece, and that sorted that problem. So that is a great improvement. Good. Right, so I hope that naming decision doesn't annoy too many of you, but all you fans of Beauty and the Beast and Disney and so on. But let me run through now the amendments that I've made since last time. First one is to add these lights here above the garage. They were on the original set in exactly this position actually, but I was actually keeping them back to go on the very top floor so it could light the entire front of the building. But it was pointed out to me that they'd probably just be lighting the garage entranceway, so I've put them back down here in order to continue that going. The outdoors I'll still be doing when I get up into the Lego room. And then another one that's been suggested quite frequently is adding flowers to the climbing plant. Now that was always my intention, and I've brought my bag of all my flower pieces down just so I can pick a flower for that purpose. And the one I've chosen is actually this one, which is a kind of purple serrated petal flower from a lot of Friends sets. So it's this one. I think that'll be a really good bold colour to go on that green, and it'll complement the build. That's on a few Friend sets, 4 to be exact, including set 41037, Stephanie's Beach House, where Kate is wearing one in her hair. And they look a bit young to have their own beach house. Very jealous. Now the thing with these flower pieces from Friends that use the sort of pin piece on the back is that you do need to use one of these sort of normal flower pieces with the pin hole in order to mount them. So you'll see what I mean when I show you the back of that. It's only got a pin, which wouldn't fit into any of these tree limb pieces. So first of all, we stick it in there, and that's fine because this green piece can sort of represent the petals or whatever part behind the flower, and then we can add that on, say, there. And I think that'll look really good. So I've got about a dozen of those, which I can add in a moment when we've gone through the rest of the amendments. And I have just added one more tree limb piece at the top just to take it over that line. Good, good. Right. So what else did we do? Yeah, we made some changes to the ground floor, where I've added some more dark bluish grey tiles just to finish off that back section of the garage. I've also added a couple more minifigures to the reception area, and here we've got the Series 6 Surgeon's body, which is a female body, and I've put a male head on it just because I'm going to be using some female surgeons later on. And he's got a bit of a wink on because he's come to reception with his mug of tea to sort of chat up the lady who works on reception, poor girl. And I've also added a tile you might be able to see just on the desk there. It's just got a stethoscope and a clipboard on. And that's from the set 6575 Polar Base. Quite an old set that. Just thought I may as well use it in a hospital setting while I can. And then we've got a very ill-looking person who looks a bit like Lord Business or President Business. But this guy's a workman, and he's clearly very ill because he's got a light tan coloured face, so he's not looking very well at all. He looks very old as well. I think he's one of the Emperor figures from Star Wars, actually, that head comes from. Anyway, he looks suitably ill and suitably old for having waited there a very long time. So those are the amendments to the ground floor. This floor I've kept the same. This floor I've kept the same. And mainly this floor, but I have added a couple more minifigures to the special baby unit. I've added a nurse on the inside that you might be able to see in there. I just made it darker with my hand instead of lighter. There we go. And we've got a new dad who's very excited to arrive and see his newborn, because he was obviously not involved in the birth by the looks of things. But anyway, so that looks really good as well. So I think you'll agree that the whole of the hospital so far looks absolutely busy as anything. Now, there was one more suggestion, which was adding some hand sanitizers, because those are the sort of things you'd expect to see mounted to walls all over the place. And we do have a couple of spare sort of corridors without any sort of charting or something. And I can even put one into today's build. And what I decided to do for those was just a normal 1x1 modified brick with the clip, but then to put on a 1x1 round brick in this Translite blue, but with one of these sort of round modified tile type pieces. And I've chosen brown just because I had a lot of them in brown, but you could use any colour. And I didn't use this sort of tap pieces because I'm using those on all of my IV drips, so I just wanted something a bit different. So what I'm going to do is on a few of these pillars is take out one of the 2x2 bricks and put in this and a 2x2 corner brick instead to make up the same shape, and then we'll have a couple of those in corridors. Not every one, but just in some of them. So I think that'll be really good. So let me do those two final amendments and then we can start on today's stuff. I've really been looking forward to actually using all these purple flowers, just because when you get something like this on a brick wall, kind of one or two at a time, and then you accumulate them therefore over sort of half a dozen or more brick halls, then you kind of get quite anxious to see what they look like with the anticipation building. And I think that was well worth the wait because that looks really great. The purple on the green with those little bits of bright green behind the flowers just looks really, really good actually. Very happy with that. So that's my clematis climbing plant. And there are two hand sanitizers in the columns there in the vacant corridors. So I think that all looks rather good. So just because of filming practicalities, I'm not going to do today's build in situ right on top of this thing, because basically it's going to be very hard for me to capture in a good way and very hard for you to see. So what I'm going to do is use other plates just to mock up each of the floors or elements of the floors to show you it, and then I'll add them all to the hospital so far. So, right, let's get on with the first one of those. So for the final specialist room, which will be the rooms above the garage with things like the X-ray and so on, I really have to do an operating theatre for some sort of procedure or surgery to be going on. Because what would a hospital be without an operating theatre? So that's what I've got here. And my first thing is to make a very large sort of bed that they'll have a patient on that's being worked on. So I've got a couple of feet, 1x2s, then a 2x8 and a 2x6 on top of that, to which I'll add the basic bed. So this is a much bigger bed than the usual ones I'm using in the ward. I've got a 4x6 plate with a couple of modified plates, one on each side sticking out. Some of these curved slopes for the pillow, and I've used sand green just because it's sort of a medicinally type colour. And then I've put on largely tiles for the sheets, but a 2x2 plate so we can attach a patient. And the reason why I've got this little bit sticking out each end is just so we can put one of these fence pieces on each end so that it can be sort of pulled around, because this sort of bed would be on wheels, so it was mobile, and the porters would pull on these. And on the foot of the bed, I've actually got a little sort of chart showing this guy's what looks like heart rate. Now this was actually from a vet set from Friends, 3188 Heart Lake Vet. But I don't mind. It's got everything I need on it. It's not too ridiculous. So I can put that on the other end of the bed and have the chart on there. Now the reason why I've got two clips is so I can have a IV drip on one and on the other is it EKG heart monitor. Anyway, we've used that before. There was one of these tiles used in the X-ray specialty area, but here's another one, and this is from the ambulance set 4431, and I've just mounted that onto a bracket piece, which is using one of these sort of Technic pieces to attach it to a stick that I can then clip onto there, so it can be at a nice sort of pleasing angle. Now actually, one thing I forgot to do, which I shall just rip off the bed to put on, is some side rails on the bed, because that's what they also have for moving this around. So I've just got a pair of modified plates with one of those 6 long bars on for each side. And there are lots of good pictures of hospital beds on the internet if you just do a Google for it. So this is sort of an amalgam of all sorts of different pictures that I've seen on there. There we go. So that's the main bed setup done. Now, as for the scene, I need to have a few people in this room. First of all, most important arguably, is the Series 6 surgeon with her surgical mask, her surgical scrubs, and this sort of surgical hat that they have. And I've got her with a syringe in kind of a stabbing motion, but nonetheless for maybe anaesthetizing our patient. So maybe that's actually the anaesthetist. And then for the patient, I've actually raided a person that I was using in my gym at Sweat, because I've got loads of people who are wearing sort of training equipment, so I can easily replace him. But what I wanted for this setup was Cyrus Borg. And I wanted Cyrus Borg because he's got all this bionics, basically, on his hairpiece. He's got this sort of big half of brain on his face. He's got half metal there. He's got metal body and a metal arm. And I've actually given him bare legs because they haven't finished working on him yet. Because somebody suggested the idea of me creating the $6 Million Man. Now, if you don't know what that is, it was a TV program way back in the 70s, way before my time, I'm glad to say, but I am aware of it. And it was a program about kind of, well, he's not really a superhero. Anyway, he's a sort of a bioengineered man who basically fights bad guys. So I thought that would be a good idea here. And he was sort of created by surgery, by replacing all his sort of useless human limbs with super strength robotic limbs and implants and so on. So he could be super strong and super quick and so on. So anyway, I thought I would do that. So I thought Cyrus Borg, who's from the Overborg attack set 70722, would be the absolute perfect candidate. Now, to make it even better, he does have a sort of bionic arm here, which is just a silver coloured arm piece with a black hand. But I thought, I would carefully take that off and remove it and actually have them in the process of adding the bionic arm. So I'm actually going to put him on the bed, missing a whole arm. So let's do that. So we've got the needle coming in and he's attached to that bed and he's looking very tense, shall we say? So anyway, there he is. And then I've got another Series 6 surgeon who I've given a bionic arm to attach. Now, the real $6 million man didn't have sort of claw in the end. He had a normal hand, but nonetheless, the claw fits in and it's a good way for this surgeon to be able to hold on to it. These claws only came in a few figures. I mean, there was one who was a monster fighter, and there's obviously a few in the agents line for the baddies, because there's all sorts of guns and so on there, including my magma drones that I got recently and so on. But anyway, I had a spare one, weirdly, so it's a great place to put it. So she's holding the arm that she's going to attach in a minute. And I thought that that would be better than just a normal surgery scene, although I did have a good idea from somebody else, which was to have sort of red cherry pieces and sausage pieces all coming out of somebody's stomach or something, but I thought that might be a bit grotesque and a bit hard to do really, or keep in place at least. But I think this is a funny idea to make surgery a bit more fun and a bit less serious, and I think it's something we'll like looking at through the windows. So there we go, there is my scene. So then, as always, I just need to add on the walls around my scene. And hopefully I can do that without knocking... knocking all my minifigures over. Indeed, I might decide to move it all a couple of studs out so we can see it a bit more readily. I don't know yet, but let's see how we go with this. That needs to go on this end, doesn't it? The one... And then we've got a big wall of windows. So I might need to move this surgeon along one, so she fits better in that window frame. There we go. All right, so that's all ready for the roof. So I think you can see what's going on. Maybe this surgeon needs to be sort of walking in with the arm or something like that. So I think I need to do a bit more work on staging this properly, but yeah, that looks good, doesn't it? Because then you can see the one-armed Cyrus Borg as well through the window. Yep, looking good. So there is our operating theatre. Right, so that's that added to the top floor there. And the only thing that needs to go on top of that is its roof, and that doubles up as the helicopter pad, which has got a nice sort of overhang on the front. So yeah, I'll add that as well. And then we can get onto the other side above the ward, and then the special sort of area right at the very top. Cool. Right, so the next bit is the longer ward with the sort of corridor bit next to it. And that will be much the same as all the ones before it, because I think sometimes repetition is actually a good thing, because it sort of makes something appear like it's got a lot of scale. So I don't mind the fact that I'm not doing something novel in this area. I will be adding different people, different ill people. So I'll put on the IV drips, and I'll put on the central console with the computer on, and that 2x2 tile from the 7113 Tusken Raider Encounter again. So we've got that whole setup looking just right. And then for this area, I thought I'd add more bandage people just because I've got a load of them. And this is about the only place I can use them up. So this is the Season 3 Mummy, much the same as a lot of the other bandages, but or bandaged people. But we've got bandages on the arms, the sides of the legs, and this horrible green sort of skin colour coming through. So I do like that a lot, and I think this person looks very ill and therefore very right for my hospital. So there we go, put that person there. Then I've got another pyjama bandage mix with another bandaged headpiece and wrist piece just to go on there. And this one I've used another skin tone. So this is a medium nougat skin tone, and the face looks, let's see if we can get that, there we go, really ill, doesn't it, with sort of greyed out teeth and kind of zombie eyes. And that's because this is kind of a zombie from Pirates of the Caribbean. The character's called Yeoman Zombie from 4191, the captain's cabin, and another set or two, I think. So that one can be lying on this bed here. And then I thought we needed a doctor to be looking after them, or a male nurse or a consultant or what have you. And for that, I thought I'd use this, which is a very alarmed minifigure called Dr. McScrubs, because he's in his scrubs, and he's a very cool minifigure actually. And that character is from the Lego movie in the set 70811, the Flying Flusher, which is that sort of plumber's van that's gone crazy and is fighting the baddies and so on. So I thought I'd have him with his original scared expression, just sort of checking up on these guys and being absolutely scared of how bad they look. So he's a great doctor figure, different colour from some of the others, so he's obviously got a different specialty, but I thought that was a good scene there. So let's continue with the rest of the wall. So there's the front windows. And the gap is for that very tall vertical panel and so on. So there we go, put that on there as the pillar that separates everything. I got a couple of questions about whether there was room for doors here, and there might be on this section where it's 4. There's not room when we go up the step, and it's only 3 wide here, and I don't want to do a massive re-engineering and just have everything cluttered with doors. It would be more realistic, but sometimes I think realism can just add clutter, quite frankly, so I'm not going to do that here. And then for the column that sort of bridges both floors, I'm going to have another hand sanitizer as we did before for this side, and then on the other side I'm going to have a chest x-ray, which is obviously Cyrus Borg's chest before they started adding loads of metal to it presumably, and that tile is part of the Series 6 Surgeon series minifigure there. I've only got one of those. I got the other 2 surgeons cheaper because they were missing that tile. So that now can go on top of, with that, there we go. Turn that around. Oh no, that side's worse. A little bit discoloured, that white one. But I can put that on top of everything else and complete the entire 5th floor. And then we've just got one more floor to do, the 6th floor, which on this section is the helipad, as we just looked at. So we haven't got to do anything there. But on this side, there's kind of a sort of 2/3 floor. It's kind of over this bit, but not over the corridor, that we can use for something else. So I don't want to use that for another ward because that'll be ward number 5 and it would be getting a bit too repetitive, I think. So I thought I'd use that for another specialty room. One good suggestion was to have sort of a dispatch type centre where people manning the phones would be sending out the helicopter and the ambulance out to incidents in my city. And that is good, but I think rather than have a room with men sat at desks in front of computers and, so on, I thought it'd be much better to have another different hospital specialty, because there's nowhere else I can do that, where I can have men and women in front of computers doing a more sort of desk-bound job pretty much anywhere. So that's what I'm going to do. Right, so I think I'll build that on top of here, actually, and then we can imagine it's on top of the very tall building, which it will be in due course. Okay, so let's put on the floor above, which would be that piece and this long piece as usual. Okay, right, so the specialty I wanted for this room was to have kind of a sciencey lab type setup. And that was largely inspired by some of the awesome stickers from the recent hospital set 60204 from 2018. That had some great stickers that I just couldn't pass up on using. And the main part of that is, well, kind of a play feature because it is an X-ray analysis machine. So basically it's this, including a light brick. So I've just copied this build from there, but added a few of my own tweaks. And that is a light brick, like I say. So you just press that and it lights up nice and red. So basically that would go there. And then we would need a screen, of course. So just a normal end, actually, with a panel piece as part of it. And then you get 3 slides, which you can mount on these things and then place here. So you can, with your big fig hand, i.e. your hand, pick one up and put it on for projection. And if you didn't know about this play feature on that set, it's absolutely fantastic. But you put one in there and you press that button and you can see in this case we've got some, well, digestion, I suppose. It's somebody's innards, and you can see that there's a cherry on the slide there inside somebody's stomach, and it's got their heart on and their intestines and so on. So that's quite a fun one. And then we've got another one here. They don't show up as well as they usually do just because I've got very bright filming lights on. But you can probably see that's a rib cage, much like that X-ray we looked at earlier. So that's really good. And then the third one is for all these people wearing wrist casts. It's a minifigure wrist, just to see if there's a break there. So we can put that in as well and have a look at that. That one's great, isn't it? You can really see that one quite vividly. So that looks really good, I think. And I just couldn't pass up on having that as part of my hospital. So I figured that maybe they come in off the helicopter, come in the door, which will be here, and go off to the lift immediately. But maybe there's some samples that have been taken at the scene or something like that that are left behind that can be tested here. So with that in mind, I've got a syringe that might be full of something and a microscope with a slide on it and so on top of some drawers. And another decorated brick just because I had it, but with a computer screen on top with some patient records. I really like the fact that that bottom one looks like a baby's records as well because it's really, really small. And their vital signs and all their details and so on. So that can go there. So fantastic. Let's get some walls in. And this one's slightly different, and it's got these sort of small windows for this floor, and that's just the same as the original set 4429 that I'm kind of basing this whole thing on. And here is the door to the outside section, and I've used one of these sort of nice 3-panel doors just because I had one, so that's really nice. So that kind of encloses this small area. So we need somebody who's in here, a scientist. So I've kind of created my own scientist here. The torso is actually from the Mad Scientist, which is in a couple of sets, but the Scary Laboratory 1382 is one of them. And I really like that torso. It's just a bit different, sort of done up on one side with a stethoscope across the chest and around the neck. And then I thought these glasses in combination with a really big beard, like from the Caveman and a few others that I've accumulated quite a few big beards actually on recent hauls, would make a very good looking scientist. So he can just be in here hard at work. Very good. Now just for another figure, just to fill up this area a little bit, I thought I'd have a very concerned paramedic type with the torso from the recent hospital set, maybe watching the helicopter doing a precarious landing in bad weather or something like that, or maybe just anxious to get the patient that it's delivering out safely. So I thought she could be kind of on there, maybe leaning back, looking up. And then we're going to have, obviously, the helipad will be here with the helicopter on it. And I'm in two minds whether to mount that on 1x2x5 clear bricks to sort of mean that it's sort of hovering in the air, maybe coming into land, because the positioning of this whole building right next to that second standing hole and the fact that we've now made this 6 stories tall means that I'm probably going to keep bumping into this building quite a lot. And the fact that the helicopter is actually too big for the landing pad and actually hangs off the back makes that even worse. So I think if I attach it with transparent bricks, although that might look better, it's just going to be an absolute disaster zone because it's going to get knocked off about, well, twice a day at least. So I probably won't do that, so I can just lift it off very easily when I'm working in that area. In fact, I am actually considering with the whole building having it so the whole building just could be lifted off, base plate and all, and put on the floor or to one side temporarily just while I'm working in that area, because otherwise it might be a nightmare. But we'll see better on that when we're up in the Lego room. Right. We need a bracer piece along the back there. There we go. And then we need the final roof section, which has got all the original sort of dishes and aerials and things like that, just to make it look like a very active and busy hospital. There we go. Now, this bit will also have the red kind of stripe with the windows going up the front. So I've got a hospital sticker from the recent 60204 set used there. So that'll kind of be facing that way. And the other one will be like that. And then we'll have obviously the 3 panels making up these 2 floors, kind of like that. It's going to look a lot better when it's all actually in position. And then we've got this just to crown it all off. Now this is the bit that will be kind of right on the very top of that, finishing it off. And it's just the right sort of proportion of bricks to sort of pin it all in place quite firmly. Now this has actually got the panel from the hospital 7892 on it with the EMT symbol as well. And I could have gone for a really ornate sort of 3D sign, I suppose. But the reason I didn't was because this isn't really a business trying to drum up trade with a really interesting and funky sign. It's a hospital. So basically it's going to have a functional sign. So I think that's good enough. It's nice and big and bold. So I think that'll do. So that essentially will be mounted sort of like that. So this will all connect. So it'll look like that at the top. But it's not going to do it now because it'll all be hanging off slightly. And I think it'll look really good. So I'll add that onto the top of our existing build in a minute. Then I just need to introduce you to the ambulance, which came with this set. It's a bit small. It's a little bit rubbish in a way. I have got the bigger ambulance 4431, which I'll bring into the city elsewhere. But I figured if one was going to just be parked in the garage for this set and wasn't really sort of out and about, then better for it to be this smaller, less useful one. And I have used the ambulance sticker from set 4431, which was mounted on a different shaped slope on here, just because I had 2 of this piece. So it says ambulance on the front as well, even though quite often it's in mirror writing, isn't it? So you can see it in the rear view mirror of your car. So anyway, that will go in the garage. And then the last piece of the whole puzzle is the helicopter. And this is just the helicopter from the original set. And it'll be the one that I'll be knocking off the roof very frequently. So let's hope it's very well built. Now I'm thinking, because the blades of this aren't the sort of helicopter blade pieces, but just these very long plates, that I might just add a 1x1 tile just to the end of each of the blades. Because when I've added stickers onto the helicopter blade pieces in the past, I think it looks a lot better, especially when you spin the blades. Not that I'll be able to spin these as fast as for my motorised Coast Guard helicopter, for example. That is a great video if you haven't seen it. So, yeah, it kind of rocks a bit because of the setup on this one, but there, you get the idea. But I still think that's a slight improvement, so I'll go with that. Right, so I think we're finally there. We've got all the pieces. We've got a helicopter. We've got our small backup ambulance. We've got our top 2 floors, which all needs pinning together. And we've got the main build. So I suggest I add them all together and show you it in the Lego room where we'll be able to see it a lot better. And there it is, all plugged together. Looking pretty amazing and pretty tall. This column is great with this sign on the top all the way down. Looking great. Ambulance in there. Helicopter on the roof. Looking great, I think. I thought I'd do this shot after saying what I said, just because what if this were to get dropped on its way up to the Lego room? I might not have enough time to do it all again, so I thought I'd show you it here. Now, another thought did cross my mind, because you may remember that we started this build with a 4-story plan, and then in part 2 we decided to increase it to 6 stories, which is where it currently is. And I thought, you know, why stop there? Why not go for 8 stories? No, I'm joking. Imagine I did that. It might get out of hand. No, we're keeping this firmly at 6 stories, but I thought I might pull your leg a little there. So, right, let's get this up into the Lego room. Right, so here it is in the Lego room. And it is big. Perched right on the edge of this table. You can see that it really is a facade in every sense. Yeah, the size of that. There's that nice hospital sign on the side that we should be able to see from long distance. I've also added some paving out the front. It may not be the final sort of paving. I wanted some green area out there. I think I'll add some flowers and some more detail. And it's raised above the level of the tiling at the moment just because I haven't got anything to edge it with. But yeah, I don't mind it. It doesn't look too bad. And those purple flowers on the climbing plant look really good. So I'm very happy with that. And there we've got the driveway piece built into the edge of the road plate, so you can see exactly what I was talking about now, that is coming right to the edge of the curb, and is looking pretty good for it as well, actually, with the hazard line around it. It's kind of seamless. So that's looking good. And then you can see what I mean about this helicopter. Now it's on here. I'm going to be bashing it all the time, so I might keep that somewhere nearby, or even have it maybe flying off to an emergency, and then I won't need to keep knocking it off. And I've put it right at this end of this street, which I will be having a lot of buildings based on 16 by 32 base plates. I put it right at that end just to give me a chance of not hitting it all the time, just because it's so big. And I think that's fine as well, because it's tall enough to be seen over the buildings opposite when we're looking at this from the other perspective. And I think that's important, that it's not sort of hidden behind some buildings. You can see right through there, out the window, to the rest of Brick Nottingham. Yeah, I think that looks really good. So we'll have to see what that looks like from the other side. But I do like this sort of doll's house effect that we've got by having all of these scenes fully viewable, including the really funny ones and the really cute ones from the standing hole. So yeah, it's looking really good. And if we just look from above as well, we can see far, far, far below the little garden bit and the driveway piece as well. Yeah, looking good. Right, let's go into the first standing hole and look at it from that perspective as well. Well, I think the good news is that it's unmistakably a hospital. With the white walls and the red window details, I think you can see, and all the EMT sort of logoing, I think you can see that this is definitely a hospital and has some fun scenes all the way through it because of those light blue trans window pieces. You can see right in and see that it's absolutely full of good stuff. And as a result, I think it actually tempts you to crawl under this table here to the second standing hole to take a look. And the thing that I really like about these open back buildings is not only that you can go round and have a peek inside where they've been sort of chopped in half by a giant guillotine for the standing hole, but also because they let in a lot of light. If you think about some of these modulars, which do look good from all angles, and that's why I have them in the middle of my Lego room, because I'm looking at them from the front and from the back. But I mean, you just can't see in, can you? You can't really see what's going on in any of these rooms because it's just too dark. Whereas the hospital, you really can. Now, the table over there with the Ferris wheel on and the table over there with all of my smaller parts on, they're going to be covered by the fairground, and it will probably overlap a little bit onto where the roller coaster is and where that light is. So it will be completely that side of the city. But I don't think that the hospital is going to obstruct it. In fact, I think it's good that it's that tall because, you know, you have to kind of peer around it. You won't be able to see everything all at once, all the time. So I think that's probably a benefit. You don't want to have a completely unblocked view, but you don't want to have something that's so difficult to see around that it poses a problem. So I think that's actually quite a good compromise. I don't think we should go for the 8 floors rather than 6. Yeah, so I think I'm happy with that. And it'll be a good bookend to what will be a full street of buildings on the other side of that road before we actually turn, because the road's going to turn to the left, as in towards that light, and come to the right to feed this area down here that I haven't done at all, which will be my cargo yard for my trains. So yeah, I think that's looking good. It's even better from that angle where you can see all the climbing plant through the gap in all the buildings. I think that might have to be the picture for the video. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Do tell me what you think. So, a quick recap on what we did today. We added the hospital helicopter, the hospital ambulance, a bit of an area out the front, including some flowers on our climbing plant. And we did the entire top 2 floors, which include another ward, an operating theatre with a $6 million man inside. Bear in mind that in the 70s, $6 million was probably a lot more money than it is worth today. So think sort of $60 million man. And then the area at the top, which is the sort of testing lab for the entire hospital, including the X-ray analysis. And then the roof with all that good stuff on, and lots of interesting minifigures and scenes. And the fact that the driveway fits so beautifully with the edge of the road, I think is a real accolade as well. Yeah, that looks great from that angle, doesn't it? Great. So, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome Lego videos. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, well, I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. I've been too focused on finishing this off and doing trains and purchases for lots of future designs. So I'll have to come up with something by Monday, and then another brick haul on Wednesday, and then probably a train MOC next Friday, which I'm really looking forward to. So, see you then!